We got our guest here. He's a little early and he said he's ready. So let's bring him on right away. He represented Fightful at the Royal Rumble press conference, and he asked the hard questions because he is a man of integrity and everything else that I say. Jon Alba joins us now. Hello, Jonathan Alba. How are you?
Hey, gents. How you doing?
Hello, Jon Alba. Have you gotten any sleep?
Not great. It's been very little, but that's okay. We got a busy day today. So I'll say this, you're getting me very raw and my brain has been churning quite a bit over the course of the past 24 hours and especially the last 5 hours. So I'm gonna say this. Sorry, my alarm to remind me to come on. This just went off. Because that's where I'm at right now. I want to say this right off the bat, guys. I am really uncomfortable with the idea that this stuff is becoming newsworthy. Like, people asking questions as part of their job should never be newsworthy. It's really disappointing that we're still at that stage where doing your job is seen as something that's either worth praising or criticizing, and it has bothered me quite a bit, and the way that some things went down this past weekend bothered me. So I'm an open book, and I'm happy to chat about whatever.
Well, I think it's become that way, sadly, is because people are pre-mad about this stuff. People were already going into it of like, they're not going to ask. They're not going to ask. If you don't ask, you're not a real journalist. Like, they're already pre-mad about this stuff when Sean, you said, like, if I'm there, if I ask a question, I will ask. Sean said, if Fightful has representation, it will be asked. Brandon Thurston always asks this kind of stuff. It's like, you see who is there and who always asks these questions, and yet people are going to be pre-mad about it. And then after it all happens, it's still going to be this big thing. And should it be? Probably not. Like, I agree with you of you guys are doing your jobs, but then you have, sadly, other people who are like, and now for a lighter question, and then it just becomes
okay. All right, hold on. No, I'm gonna you just struck a nerve. So I've been thinking about this all morning, and I'm gonna say it. I don't care. Look, I really don't care. Honestly, pro sports is my focus right now. Pro wrestling is kind of in my periphery. Yeah, right. I thought that was bull crap. Like,
you can use the word. You can use the word.
Well, okay. I mean, look, I'll say it here, okay? I don't hold any personal grudges against anybody, and I'm generally the type of person where if someone does something directly to me that upsets me, I'm going to confront them about it in a respectful, kind way, but also let them know that I'm bothered by it. So this incident didn't happen to me directly, so it's not my place to do that, but Nick Houseman asked a perfectly fair question to one of WWE's top stars in Cody Rhodes. Cody did not shy away from answering it. He gave what I thought was a pretty good answer, truthfully, to it. And then for Steve Fall to afterwards try to delegitimize the question by referring to it as not a nice question or insinuating that his question was nicer was bullshit. Like, straight up bullshit. And it undermines anyone who's there trying to ask a question of value. I'm sorry, it does. And had it happened to me directly, I would have confronted him directly to his face there in the press conference. And I'm not here piling on people or like trying to bully people, because I don't believe there's much value in that. And I'm not about that. And I didn't like seeing people, even if I disagreed with their questions in the press conference, I didn't like seeing people taking vitriol from people online. That wasn't fair. But professionally, that incident undermined what people were there to do. And I really thought that was extremely damaging, more than some people may even realize. And I would hope that with some reflection, Steve would apologize to Nick for saying that. I don't know if that's the case. If anyone would like to talk to me about it, my DMs are open, but so does that insinuate that anyone asking a question of value is being mean? Like, what are we doing here?
I thought that was worse than, I mean, look, everyone who asked, I thought when it comes to Triple H, should have asked about the lawsuit and about the allegations. But as I said beforehand, and as I've said throughout this show, I get maybe some people weren't comfortable. People are there to do different kind of content. I understand that. I try to be sympathetic towards that. I get it. So I'm not going to certainly attack or pile on those people. I have an understanding, even like you said, even if I don't agree with the questions that they ask. Actually saying, like, because look, if Steve doesn't want to ask those questions, fine. If he wants to ask Cody about finishing the story after that, fine. Move on. Ask your question about finishing the story. The comment of now for a nicer question, like you said, it made himself look worse. It made everything seem worse. Of like, okay, so you're saying that a perfectly fair and honest question is not nice and is mean, and we should be nicer to these wrestlers? No, fuck that.
It undermined everything. And Nick's question again was totally fair.
It was fair. It was worded well. Like it was good.
And again, I'm not attacking Steve as a human. I don't know Steve really all that well. I'm not going to drag someone for that. I'm just saying that was BS. It was straight up unfair to Nick, and it was unfair to anyone who was there just trying to do their job. It really rubbed me the wrong way. And I tried to think, am I reacting to that? And I've been in thousands of press conferences in my life. And I've got into some quarrels with other media members in the past, but never in any of the press conferences I've ever been in have I ever seen another reporter devalue or invalidate something that someone else asked, especially immediately after. It was really unfair.
So I've made my point about this. I will add one thing, and maybe this is just to kind of balance it out a little bit. It's very possible that he thought he was cutting tension. I still think it was the wrong thing to say, regardless. In his mind, I don't know. Wouldn't be surprised if that's what he goes with. But with all that said, if you're ever in a room where that is happening, you know who to seek and to speak to in the room.
But like also, Joel, you're saying like cut tension. The way Cody answered it was very well.
It was very well. Don't get me wrong. Again,
Yeah.
I don't think that he handled it well. I think that was his way of cutting what he perceived as tension in a room that's typically very celebratory, where he had a great night, and that's all, Triple H wanted to do. We're going to talk about that. So let's move on. Let's dive from that, because we all, I think we've said our piece here with that. One thing that actually came up going into this presser was the idea of collaboration on questions. And I want to ask you, Jon, was that something that came up in your experience, people wanting to collaborate on questions, or at least share intel or share info leading to their question framing?
I did not personally collaborate with anyone on asking questions. I knew probably around 8 a.m. what I was going to ask in that press conference. I thought about it quite a bit. I knew what I was going to ask. I had questions picked for each person should that opportunity arise as to who I was going to ask to. There were some people who were not going to be there, for the record, people that were not going to be present at the press conference that I had reached out to earlier in the day to get a temperature on if they felt something like this was appropriate to ask to this specific person, hypothetically. But I don't think I actually shared what I was going to ask with anybody. I think when you guys heard me say it on the feed, that was the first time that I was publicly speaking with anyone about that. But I am always open if anyone ever wants to ask me or be like, hey, what do you think of this question? Like, I'm always going to be open to that. I think media can be a collaborative space. So I don't personally have any problems with that. I don't know if you should be coordinating efforts of like, this is going to be our game plan. This is what we're going to do. I will say I did speak to a few people that were present beforehand who I know might have been on the fence about whether or not they want to ask stuff. And I just said, guys, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to ask or what to do, but do remember that what you do tonight or don't do tonight, people are going to remember that. So just remember that. And that was
how
pretty much how I looked at it.
How was the selection? I think Denise mentioned it was like kind of pre-selected. Did you know who you were going to talk to? This is what somebody in our chat had said, or was it you were in the room, you raise your hand, and then you get handed the microphone?
Yeah, you're in the room and you raise your hand, and they pick who they're gonna call on. It's not. I'll make that very clear too. Nothing is pre-screened. Nothing is censored. WWE's PR, and I caught heat for saying this, and I think it's bizarre that I got heat for saying this. WWE's PR, as far as media relations, handled things very, very well this past week, and they deserve some credit for that. Did they handle the situation at hand well? That's not for me to say, right? That's not for me to say. But as far as how they treated media, they were extremely fair, and nothing was predetermined or censored or anything of that nature. I mean, look, here's the reality. These people are not stupid. They knew that someone like me, they knew that someone like Brandon Thurston would ask a legitimate question, right? And if they didn't want to call on us, they wouldn't have.
What did you make of Triple H's answers?
The way that I've been answering this question is it does not have a personal effect on me as to how he answers a question. He can choose how to answer anything as he sees fit, right? That's not my job to decree that was a good answer or that was a bad answer. I was surprised that they did not have a pre-prepared PR statement of sorts or a line to keep referring to. I was actually extremely surprised by that, just historically from experiences that I've had. But, I mean, this is now the second time that I've asked Paul Levesque a question at a press conference, and he's accused me of being negative. So, I mean, that is what it is. It's fine.
You should ask nicer questions, Jon Alba.
Should ask nicer questions. I mean, again, I think just being candid, like, I'm always going to try to be fair when I ask a question. I don't have a personal vendetta against anybody when I ask a question. If I did have a personal vendetta, I would be recusing myself from the situation. I would not be asking a question because that's not fair to the person that you're asking a question to. So was I surprised? Yes, I was surprised. I thought for sure that there would have been some sort of answer that was along the lines of, I understand why you're asking this question. Currently, due to the ongoing situation and the legality of the matter, I'm not at liberty to discuss it, but know that WWE handles all allegations of misconduct seriously. Something along those lines, right? That's what I kind of anticipated, and we didn't get that. So ultimately, that's for them to have to respond to, and not for me to decide if that was a good or a bad answer.
Took away from my question of Jon Alba, why are you so negative? So we got that
right. Yes.
I do want to know, when you walked into the room, I've been in a WWE press conference and AEW press conference before, and the room's always different. You walk into that press conference, did it feel different? Did it feel people were excited about the event? Did people kind of feel like pins and needles? What was the vibe in the room before it started?
I don't know. I can't really speak for anybody else, Joel. That's the thing. For me, it was another press conference. The one thing that was a little weird was, and this was the first time I personally had seen it, maybe it happened at other press conferences. I hadn't been in a WWE press conference since WrestleMania last year, so I don't know. But there was a group of probably about 15 fans in the back. They were the fans that you would see in like the front row, like the green shirt guy. I don't remember if he specifically was there, but
someone mentioned that he was on. Yeah, he was there.
He might have been there. There was a group of fans in the back, and I was saying to myself, like, are they going to let fans ask questions here? I still don't know what the answer is. Does anyone know? Is that like some sort of a VIP package thing that like you can purchase a VIP and then you get to sit in the press conference? I don't know. I've never seen that before.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
By the way, Issa's in the chat says everyone was gassed out from the run to the room. That was the vibe.
We did have to travel very far to the press conference room.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it was again, and I'm not trying to come off like a dick here. I'm really not. I'm just speaking very honestly with you guys. It was just another press conference to me. Like, I've been in so many that I've asked way more difficult questions than what I asked. I've asked questions about direct, like, to the person directly accused of sexual assault. I don't know, like this.
Well, that's why I asked, because there is a different vibe for different people, because
Yeah.
you could be in the room 100,000 times. You can be in the room for your first time.
Right.
But sometimes you do kind of feel the vibe. Sometimes you
Maybe
hear
more people were
around you.
hesitant.
Yeah.
That's possible. Maybe I don't know. I didn't really talk to too many people about it. I mean, I know there were some people that were definitely curious as to what would happen. I think that's probably the most I could give in terms of like I think there was definitely a contingency of people who were like, who's gonna ask the questions? And yeah, I mean, I really do have a lot of thoughts on all this stuff. So I'm sorry I keep talking over. You feel more than free to ask whatever the hell you want to. Yeah.
Why do you think everyone hates wrestling journalists and thinks we all suck at our job?
Because I think there are some people who don't handle situations like this well. I mean, I do think that has some validity, but that shouldn't blanket everybody. Like, I had that one person that Sean told me is a troll. I'd never really interacted with them, so I don't even know who they were. But they were like, stop taking victory laps, and we'll see if you actually ask the tough question next time.
Oh, that guy sucks, by the way.
And I'm like, okay, listen, you want to come after other people, that's fine, but like, let me be a pompous piece of shit for a second here. You're gonna come after me for not asking a tough question? Do you know my track record? Like,
It's Mr. Negative. We've been through this.
right,
Google
Mr.
me.
Negative. But like Jeremy, you made it a bit that I was the guy that asked about COVID all the time, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, for crying out loud, like, are we kidding me right now? It's just that's what bothers me more than anything else. It's the bad faith stuff that, like, Vince Russo tweeted, like, I know, bro, that no one will ask about this because they're gonna lose their access to their credentials. And I was like, yeah, is that the case? Is that so? And then I had someone on Friday, because I caught heat because Chris Van Vliet and I took a picture together and the Royal Rumble backdrop just happened to be behind us. I didn't even realize it was behind us. And they're like, oh, you're just mediating rapists. And I said, I was like, I don't understand where this is coming from. And someone said to me, guys, they're like, I bet you this will not be asked about. And I quote you, I said, okay, $100 to a charity of your choosing that it won't be asked about. And they kept, oh, well, now you're just trying to, and so I kept tweeting at this person. I didn't care. I'll be petty as hell. I was like, here's where you can donate $100 to this place, because, and these people, they don't apologize, right? They don't apologize. They don't ever admit they're wrong. There was like one or two people who did. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really fired up about this. Joel, you were trying to jump in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no. This is actually one thing I was talking about on Friday with Jeremy, was that there will be people, and they all came out, who said, oh, they're going to talk about the lawsuit on Thursday. They're going to ignore it so they can talk about SmackDown on Friday. And then all they're going to want to talk about is the results of the Rumble on Saturday. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. But guess what's not going to happen? No one's going to stop thinking about the story and the lawsuit just because something else happened in the news cycle that was scheduled to happen regardless. Nobody is going to stop pushing and pressuring this story from getting more attention. Why do we have to think in such binary terms? What the hell is with these people that they think that it's like, oh, we're just on to the next thing? No, you're on to the next thing because you want to push whatever the hell you need to push to get your anger out there. So when I see shit like that, where you're having a moment with Chris Van Vliet, who you don't get to see every day, and you guys are pals, like, I take photo with a friend and I put it on socials because guess what? I'm still doing my job, but I'm going to have a little fun with it. God forbid. It's not.
It was so bad faith of people, and it really annoyed me. And then on top of that, the people who just, I don't know. It really is. I've never dealt with fan base is like that in any of the other things I've covered.
Wrestling fans are the absolute worst. Not you guys in the chat, but the people on Twitter. It is so much bad faith stuff. It's so much bad faith of just they see you take a photo with a friend and it's like, clearly you don't care about this story. They don't care. They don't actually care. They are just doing this to get some type of reaction and doing whatever. And this is why I ignore all of these idiots. But like, if they were in this position, I truly think that a lot of it is just some jealousy of like, they want to be in this position and they're not.
There might be some jealousy. I'm not going to blanket statement. I don't know who's jealous and who isn't.
I think one guy you were interacting with is jealous.
Probably. But I don't know, man. It just really doesn't sit well with me at all when you get that stuff. And I just don't understand what people's end game is with it. And like the thing I really hated, and I want to say for the record, I know I'm like I am being negative right now, but most of the people that did reach out were very complimentary. And like, again, I appreciate that, but I was just doing my job. But the one really bad faith thing that I get, and some people genuinely believe this, is like, this was not the time or place. I'm sorry, a press conference where the role of the media there is to ask questions is the wrong place to ask questions. Like, what are we even talking about?
Yeah, we've dealt with a couple people on our chat. Like, why does Triple H's thoughts on this matter? It's like, well, the company's being sued. That's his father-in-law. He's the executive in front of everybody.
And he might be involved in the lawsuit. We don't know. It's possible that he is.
Well, he hasn't read it yet, so we're not sure. He's not even sure if he's involved.
But listen, and I was listening to Brandon Thurston's stuff on WrestleNomics, and Brandon does a great job. Brandon said he regretted the way that he asked that question, and he should have asked rather not did you read it, but had you been briefed on it or were you aware of the contents of it? Because it is entirely possible that Paul Levesque did not read line for line this lawsuit. But let's be real, it's also extremely unlikely that he hasn't been briefed on it in some capacity.
I'm laughing because that's exactly what I said at the top of the show. Was that I think that was Paul being glib, being cute, and just skirting his way around it by saying, no, he didn't read it page for page, but no, he got briefed on it. You just didn't ask, did you get briefed on it? That was my general feeling. So I'm glad that I'm not alone in that sentiment.
Yeah, all right, and I think that's probably what it was.
Let's ask a positive question before we let you go.
I hate you so much. I'm here for you as long as you want. Okay, I always love talking to you guys.
We want you to sleep.
I'm not sleeping. Man. I've got something to do at 1 o'clock, so it's fine.
Right. But that's in a few hours. You can take a nap.
Yeah, we know you're a busy
24/7. The thunder rolls.
Tell me about it.
Is Cody Rhodes going to finish his story?
Sorry, I just heard something going on in the background. Is Cody Rhodes going to finish his story? I think so, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, what proof do we have that he will? I think he will. I mean, listening to Paul Levesque in the press conference talking about Cody, I think he really has come around to recognizing that Cody is the guy. And that piece that I wrote for Fightful 2, I was going through this because I talked a lot about Cody in it, and how Cody recognizing that there was this dark cloud hanging over things, and the way he responded almost proved that he is the guy more than anything, and just how he handled himself. But I was going through the piece and I realized, and this is a criticism of the questions asked in the press conference, all of the quotes that I used outside of the one that I asked and the one that Nick Hausman asked came from opening statements. There was not a single quote that I got used from a question that was asked. And I wrote a piece about, obviously, the allegations, but also about Bayley and Cody winning the Rumbles and what that meant going forward. I mixed the two stories together. So I think that's a pretty bad reflection of how that press conference went at the end of the day, too. But as far as the question at hand here, do I think Cody finishes the story? I think he probably does, but I don't say that confidently.
Do you want to bury any other media members while you're here?
No, and that's the thing. I'm not trying to come across as burying media. I'm really not. I'm really not. Like, I'm not going to drag people personally because I get some people aren't going to ask something that makes them feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. But the way that I see it is, if you don't feel comfortable asking about something that realistically should be asked, don't take the opportunity to ask about it from someone else by asking something that is totally irrelevant. Like, again, nothing personal against these people. I'm very friendly with a lot of these people. But asking, is this era the best era or any of that, does that serve anything? I mean, forget even just about the allegations. How can I utilize a quote like that in a story? What type of content are you getting out of that? That sounds like something you would ask about on Cameo. You know what I mean?
There's a very strange conversation that eventually we might have to have. And that is that there are people in that room who are there to pursue other roles in professional wrestling. This isn't a bad thing, but it is something that's worth taking into account, that there are people who are there not to ask questions that could take away from their opportunities. The person that you mentioned asking that question is
I don't even remember who asked it.
It was Evan T. Mack, and we already.
Okay.
I'll use.
I love Evan. I love Evan.
And this is what I was saying: is that this is no shade at Evan. My baseline reference to Evan was the work he did on screen for WWE.
Mm-hmm.
That was him working for WWE. We eventually will have to have the conversation about who feels comfortable asking what, because do they feel like it might hurt their chances of appearing on camera for their job, which is fine with these places. I know a lot of people went after Emily May Heller. I love Emily. I really, really like the work that she does. She does on-camera work with New Japan. She does on-camera work with many of the independents out there. She is well known. She asked about the Netflix deal right off the bat, and people dragged her for that. Well, y'all don't think about the fact that Emily is literally everywhere. She's there to represent Sportskeeda, but she's also doing other things in wrestling. And I'm not trying to say, no, she's just trying to get a job at WWE. It's not that, but we do have to eventually talk about the fact that some people are there for other means and for other reasons, and they want to pursue their roles. So that's why, like, it was the Evan T. Mack thing that was like immediately. Was
and I recognize that, Joel, and I do, believe me, as someone who has pursued roles in all different avenues of media and television and whatever, I get it. Believe me, I do. But is that the forum to do that? Like, does you asking that question aid you in getting a job? I don't know that I've never had an instance personally where me asking a question helped me get a job. I don't know. It's just,
we've never had this level of access until recently. That is a big thing. This has been a very insular, business. And if you come as an outsider, there are very few outsiders that show up. Will Washington is the first guy that made that leap, and you can argue that he had an in before. Yeah. That's really what I'm getting from, is that you don't just show up and get the job. Just you worry because you want to be known as the team player, as the guy or girl who goes to bat for the company and will do anything at any cost. That has been the wrestling game for a long time.
Yeah. And again, I am not personally taking shots at anyone. Me calling out that particular question, as I said, Joel, I didn't even remember who asked it. I happen to like Evan quite a bit, so it's nothing against him. I'm just saying, does that aid content, like just on a basic, who can utilize an answer like that in producing content that's relevant to the Royal Rumble event itself? More than anything, that's how I look at it. And yeah, so I don't know, again, not trying to, and I know I've been like feisty here, and I'm just being honest. It's just frustrating.
I'm making things worse. I'm sorry, Jon Alba.
No, it's fine. I don't think the headlines should be on people asking questions. And I understand why they are, but I don't think they should be, because if if the right questions were asked, it wouldn't be newsworthy. It would, and it takes away from the actual problem at hand here.
I think this is a big problem just in wrestling, certainly with wrestling Twitter and everything, is people almost get too micro focused on things, and they micro focus on the wrong things, like this of who's asking the questions, why didn't they ask this, and people want to attack because there was a lot of terrible attacking that came off,
And that's
of
not
this.
fair. That's not fair.
But you don't, I mean, maybe I don't look at other sports quite closely enough, but like Woj or Shams breaks a story and no one, I mean, they know it's Woj and Shams, but like no one else is really focused on other NBA, NFL reporters to that level. Most of these guys are on television too. It's a completely different push-pull kind of relationship here, but the focus isn't there as much as I feel it is with wrestling, because I think a lot of times like this feels new in wrestling, so people just want to have their opinions on how they think it should be, when most of these people don't actually do anything to actually make it better or change it or add to a solution. Instead, they're just making a problem when it doesn't even exist. They are pre-writing a problem of let's be mad about questions that aren't asked when the thing hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and I really hate the like false equivalencies too, where it's like, oh, I bet you won't ask Tony Khan about this. And I'm like, first off, situations are not apples to apples, right? Number one. Number two, there is absolutely a proven track record of people asking Tony Khan hard questions. Literally at the last press conference, it happened. So this like short-term memory that people have and trying to create these false equivalencies is just really not right at all. But also on the other hand, guys, like I said this because I wrote something about it last night. Like, media does have to be better. Like, we do. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm perfect. I've made tons of mistakes in my career. It's reality. But I think that there were some people who got intimidated by the moment, and they just have to understand that you're not going to lose your access by asking a good faith quality question. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it reflects poorly on the organization more than anything.
Yeah, that becomes a bigger story for the organization than it does for you. And I don't think people always recognize that either.
Right. Exactly. Like, I got so many tweets when I asked the question. They were like, "Well, enjoy your last WWE press conference." And I was like, I can feel pretty confident that that's not going to be my last WWE press conference, unless I want it to be. But yeah, so like I just think people have to understand that, and I hope they are not intimidated in the future of asking things. And I do want to say too, like, I think Cody getting asked that question by Nick was totally fair. And I know there were a lot of people that were like, talent shouldn't be asked about that. And I can see an argument where, like, okay, am I asking Otis about this? I don't know. Because what is the news value I'm going to get from Otis answering that question? But Cody is a top guy in the company. He's arguably the face of the company. He no doubt worked with Vince McMahon very closely at least one point and has known him very long. So yeah, there's value in getting a reaction to that. I think people just need to understand that. It's not personal. They take things so personally. Oh, you're trying to gotcha with Cody. No, it's not a gotcha. He's in that position for a reason. He wants to be in that position where he wants to be the top guy representing the company. He does a great job at it. And with that comes the idea that you might get asked a question that's not so nice.
Before I let you go, John, Scott says,
please.
thank you. Scott
Thank
says,
you, Scott.
John, so I
Appreciate
said
that.
thank you. And no, we still have a show to do, John. You can't just
No, we
sit here
don't.
the
This is
entire
it.
show.
This is the
Well,
show. You know
What's
what?
on the show?
Well,
What else should we talk
I
about?
was going to bring that one up. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you're going to have the same conversation with Eric Bischoff. Well, just have it here instead, and don't do it with Eric. It's fine. You're
I
fine.
have no idea. I have no idea what I find out what we're talking about with Eric based on how Eric's feeling in the morning. So I don't know. I would hope that we get to have this conversation.
Sorry, that was not what I wanted to bring up. That was fun. But yeah,
Good job, Joel.
be asked and stop being a dork. Because by the way, you have a guy like Cody who is a former EVP, and the question was phrased as, "Hey, as a former EVP, what do you think of this?" Hausman framed that question very well, and we talked about that at the top of the show. So there we go. Yes, I brought that up by accident because I was trying to click between the live and the start, and yeah,
And we talked about asking talent. You know, there's certain talent. People who have been there a long time might have an answer. Seemed like, you know, Nia was asked and Talia was asked. They both kind of no commented. We're focusing on the positive. We're focusing on positive. We're moving forward type of thing. Like that was basically both of their answers. It's like, doesn't affect me. I'm moving forward. We have a great locker room. That was kind of it. Like Natalya, Nia, based on their standing, okay, kind of get. You mentioned Otis. Otis is a good one where Otis has been there for a little bit, but hasn't been there too long. He was a top guy for like 30 seconds when he won Money in the Bank. Like, what answer is he going to give on that? Omos, like, what are you going to ask Omos about this? I don't know what Omos is going to give you on that answer. So
well,
Cody,
he'll give you the 4,000-foot view of what the situation is.
Funny.
But Cody is an easy one because he's the, for all intents and purposes, the face of the company.
He's their John Cena.
Yes. So like he should be asked. And I said it like John Cena, whenever he goes on these shows, should probably be asked. The Rock, if he's on these shows,
he's a board member now. So
yeah. So like these people should be asked. But the person who you definitely should ask, and for some reason people don't get this, is Triple H, the executive, the son-in-law, the guy who's been there for 30 years, working very closely with Vince for 20 of those years.
Yeah. I mean,
what were you pulling up, Joel?
No,
Caden said this guy did great karaoke. Apparently,
what'd you sing, John?
Brandy, you're a fine girl.
Never heard of it.
What? Are you kidding me, Joel?
I mean,
and him?
Yeah.
Say, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would. Are you kidding me?
No, this was just us goading you into doing karaoke on our show.
Yeah.
Who sings that besides you?
Looking Glass.
Never heard of them.
Unbelievable. What?
If it's not Taylor Swift, I don't know any of these people, or Creed. I don't know any of these people. Looking Glass isn't that?
It was a one-hit wonder from the 70s, but it's like one of the
70s. I'm definitely
one
out
of the sexiest songs of all time. It's in Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah,
never seen it.
This is what I have to deal with, Jon Alba.
If it ain't Fast and Furious, never seen it.
I mean, that I agree with. But
I will just pivot back before we let you go. This was actually something we got earlier from Ali Khan saying, could they have asked about Brock's status? This was something we talked about on Friday as if you're going to no comment things, this is a way to kind of get around it. I wanted your thoughts. Was this something that you thought about asking about Brock Lesnar's status?
It was probably like number 7 or 8 on the things that I would have asked, but it certainly could have been asked. Absolutely. I see no problem with that. I was really surprised. I don't know if I should say surprised. I wish someone would have asked about the Ronda Rousey post and all that, especially knowing how closely that Paul worked with Ronda Rousey. So that seems like that would have been relevant. I know my question was very, no pun intended, in the weeds, but and I know it was, but I felt my question was very, very important in terms of the timeline of how things happened, where what a massive story it was at the time, right? When we saw that there was the unanimous rebuke of Vince, and then all of a sudden he's unanimously voted back in. were they aware of these allegations at the time? What was the reason for the unanimous rebuke, and what was the reason for them bringing him back? So I felt like that was extremely relevant to this particular lawsuit and the allegations, but I guess it was just too negative.
I thought that was the best way to answer it, because I assumed if any lawsuit question came up, like pertaining to the actual lawsuit, it would be no comment, legal matter. But you asked something pertaining to the lawsuit, but also something he could have been able to comment on, of coming back in January of last year. So I thought that was kind of the number one question to ask, and I thought you did a great job. I was surprised when he was like, "I'm going to do exactly what you tell me, what you think I'm going to do." We had a great week for WWE. It's an incredible week. Netflix deal. The Rock's like, this is not what I thought you were going to say at all.
He teed it up like a Tony Khan Dynamite presser preview.
It's like, wow, that was not what I thought you were going to do, buddy.
The whole idea, and like, I guess I kind of expected it, but the whole idea, like, you're just being negative. I was just like, man, I got nothing against you. I got nothing against you at all.
People want to act in this way or that way, right? There's no gray area. You have to have a strong opinion one way or the other. It can't just be an understanding. And it's like, you're negative. You didn't ask this. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. It's like, there's no understanding and nuance, especially in 280 characters.
So these people who are the ones complaining now have to spend however much that platinum ticket is so that they could stand at the back of these press conferences and ask the questions themselves.
No, but I mean, even for Paul Levesque to say, like, oh, this is being negative, I'm just like, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just asking a question that, it's not a fun thing to talk about. No one, I don't want to be asking these questions, but you have to. So it's just, that's the nature of it. This
was something that someone in our chat who's often here, Jeff Valley Driver, had pointed out, and that's just that there's a commonality of the media being villainized by those up on the dais. And it's not uncommon in wrestling at this point, but like, it's becoming more common that suddenly media asks a question. And it's like, oh, you're being negative. Why are you being negative? Well, guess what? We're not exactly talking sunshine and rainbows right now, because this is a serious news story and a serious lawsuit that's been dropped. We got to ask about it because people they've been asking about it.
Don't do negative shit like this if you don't want us to ask negative.
Pretty much.
There's nothing I would have loved to have asked Paul Levesque more about than the creative process with Cody and how, they reached this conclusion. Believe me, I would have, for my story, I would have loved my story to have been all about Cody getting a second shot at finishing his story. But it just wasn't meant to be. And I also had to do another rewrite because I had pre-written my piece with CM Punk winning the Royal Rumble. So that was another rewrite that I had to do, but that's fine.
Ryan says, love the Fightful article, John. Appreciate y'all. Jon Alba, let everybody know where they can find you being negative at.
At Jon Alba, I suppose, on the X, the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, which drops every single Friday, wherever you get your podcast. Strictly Business with Eric Bischoff, which drops whatever day Eric wants to tape on. And Wrestling. This is where I would greatly appreciate people's support. If you did enjoy my work this week, I dropped a ton of extra work on WrestlingAccordingToAlba.com. I have a Patreon for as low as $4.99 a month. It's a great community of very smart wrestling fans, and I do tape studies where we break matches down. I do Ask Albas. We have tons of fun in there. There's a Discord. So WrestlingAccordingToAlba.com is where you can really help support me. It'd be greatly appreciated. And if you're in the tri-state area market, you can catch me on Sportsnet New York, the home of the New York Mets. So yeah, that's where. And I appreciate you guys have me on, and I just want to say lastly, again, I apologize if it comes off that I was being negative. I really was not trying to be negative. I was trying to be very honest in how I felt about stuff. I don't mean to take a shot at anybody in wrestling media. It does not benefit me to take a shot at anybody. I just wanted to be very honest in how this made me feel as a professional. And I just hope going forward, people recognize that if there's a situation as pertinent as this, and it is extremely, to understand that either ask the question or let someone else ask it.
John, I appreciate you more for beyond what you did this weekend. I appreciate you for just all the kindness. You're a very kind man. You've exhibited to me over the years, and I'm sorry if I got you in trouble with anyone for being too negative.
No, you didn't get me in trouble with anyone. I'm just
sorry if we have heat now because
I'm just a negative piece of shit. That's all.
Well, listen, you're trying to undercut Fightful Select with your according to Alba by 1 cent.
Hey, Sean promoted my Patreon yesterday, so it's endorsed.
Okay,
by Sean.
join Fightful Select according to Alba for $9.99.
That's right.
My wife is burying me. Apparently, she sent you a message, said not to bother because I refuse any good music. I'm sorry that I've not heard of these 70s songs.
It's like an all-time sexy song, so you're missing out on it. Maybe you could spice up your life with the EP and play Brandy and see how things go.
I throw on the Taylor Swift music, throw on Lover. That gets the mood going right there.
For who?
A lot of magic happening in this room, Joel Pearl.
Yeah, mostly you listening to podcasts on your headphones and writing about it.
I see. I love those. Says John, a Mets fan. He always negative. Look what's behind me right now.
Yeah,
like, this isn't hard to see.
That's the great rib of John reporting on the Mets is that he's a Yankees fan.
Well, we talk all New York sports, but yeah, being on the Mets network, it's like, look, I don't know if you can see that. That is a Jeter's box, which for those who don't know, in like the year 1999, Wheaties did a limited run of Derek Jeter branded cereal, and that is a full box of Jeters that has not been opened since 1999. So yeah, go ahead and throw that at me.
He's got a box of GDs on his desk.
Erica and Derek Jeter getting close over there. So
maybe she'll get a gift basket.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Jeets.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alba. Appreciate you, buddy. Bye.
Appreciate you.